Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for our meeting together. Please grant us the wisdom we need to do what is right for the residents of Reading and work together as a team. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Flag.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Kotcher.
Mr. Powell.
Here.
Mr. Bronner.
Here.
Mr. Bishop.
Here.
Mr. Boehner.
Here.
Mr. Talman.
Here.
Mrs. Kroger. Here. Mrs. Edichico. Here.
Everybody here is 7 present. That's great, which means we have a quorum for business and a quorum for legislation. We apparently have no minutes to approve. Do we not approve the minutes from the 1st?
I didn't send them out yet.
Didn't send them out. Okay.
I'll send them all when I get them all together.
Excellent. Well, I'll hold that off till next week then, or 2 weeks. Audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to participate? Oh, come on. There's somebody out there. Hey, this is an open mic night. Sorry. All right. Reading of communications. Mrs. Kotcher says we don't have any. Does anyone have any communications to provide? Nobody. Okay, good. So we're done there. Guest speakers. Any guests? None scheduled. Anybody bring a guest?
Nope.
Okay, good. We'll do that next time. There's no executive session scheduled. Is there any need for one?
Nope.
Excellent. Moving on. Guest and administrative official reports. Mayor Bemis, top of the ticket.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dwight. You know, at the beginning of each new year, it's the mayor's responsibility to report to city council concerning the affairs of the city and to make appropriate recommendations and usually do it the third Tuesday. So this year's isn't going to be as long as previous years, but I promise in the days, weeks, and months ahead, we'll continue to update everybody on everything. But first, I want to say it remains an incredible honor for me to be the mayor of our great city. And I'm forever thankful, you know, for the people who came before us and built this city. You know, we live in a city that has excellent city services that took years to make that happen. Wonderful churches, excellent schools, productive businesses, incredible organizations that give all of us multiple opportunities to do wonderful things. And, you know, very thankful for all that. And I tell people always, you know, I envy no one. You know, Reading is a wonderful city. We were built by God-loving, family-loving, country-loving, community-loving people that appreciated simple things, you know, that didn't need luxuries, didn't need a lot, selfless people, and I hope we remain that way. I love Reading the way it is. I want to thank my administrative team, including our Safety and Services Director, Patrick Ross, our Chief of Public Works, Daryl Courtney, our Fire Chief, Todd Owens, our Police Chief, Brian Edens, and our Parks and Recreation Director, Susan Slavey. They're all a joy to work with. You know, they're dedicated public servants, love our city. We spend hours upon hours talking, interesting meetings all the time. I look forward to each and every one of them, and they're informative and truly people who care a lot about this city, and I love working with them. Also want to thank each of our dedicated employees. We work very hard every day here to provide the best possible city services with the resources we're given. You know, if we had more personnel, if we had more equipment, you know, we could do more. But with that being said, we're pleased that we have what we have, and we thank God for what we have, and we wake up and work hard each and every day. We're all public servants here working for you, our residents, our schools, our businesses, organizations. All things being considered, I'm very proud of what we accomplished through our city departments, and we will continue to strive to get better. By state law, we must live within our means and simply cannot spend more than the revenue we bring in. Therefore, it is a necessity that we operate as economically, as efficiently, and yet as effectively as we can. Our greatest strength in Reading is our willingness to all work together towards the goal of being as safe, as secure, as efficient, and as vibrant as we can possibly be. We must constantly support our departments, get them all we can afford to do their jobs and do them safely and productively, and yet at the same time, our employees must look out for all of us and do all that they can to keep our city as safe and secure as they possibly can, while doing their parts to keep us financially sound today and well into the future. I've said many times, it's my job, I feel it's my job, and the job of everyone here in these council chambers to make it a top priority to keep our own departments and maintain them as best we can. However, we need the cooperation and support of all of our employees to make sure that we can accomplish that goal as well. And, for the most part, we work very, very well here as a team, and I urge our employees and each and every one of you, we got to keep each other in mind. One of the easiest things to do for a council or a mayor would be to send us right down the road to financial emergencies. So anyway, we got to stay on top of things. I want to thank each of our council members and all of our elected and appointed officials for your willingness to serve. It isn't easy, and I admire all of you for being willing to do it. I am looking forward to working with each of you as we all want to work to make our city the safest, neatest, most prosperous city we can be. I am proud of our accomplishments in economic development, and it's what pays our bills. We're constantly working hard to keep our businesses here, encourage them to expand and invite new businesses. But just to show you what we've done, in the last 10 years, payroll in our city has increased by approximately $100 million. In fact, it's a little more than that. In the last 11 years, it brings us close to $2 million in new earnings tax revenue each and every year. And while that sounds wonderful, at the same time, we must remember that our costs to operate have also increased. Labor costs, health insurance, equipment, vehicles, training, gas, salt, and many other items have also increased significantly. We have been working very hard for quite some time now to bring good-paying jobs to the former Dow chemical site as well as the former Nivison property, and we are very close to accomplishing both goals. And, as I say that, it's still going to take some time to get jobs there. But the Nivison property is being purchased with the intent of building buildings there and adding employees. And the Dow property, the same. The Port Authority bought it. They worked out a TIF through our Reading schools to secure funding to move forward. They have a top-notch outfit ready to build buildings, and we continue to move forward with that. So while our treasurer's reports and our fund balances look good at this moment, and you guys will all see these things soon. You'll see fund balances. We have 25, 30 some different funds. We'll get our treasurer's reports. That while they look good at this moment, I recommend we maintain balances that would help us to continue to provide services for our residents in the event of challenging economic times in the future. I think we calculated today between COVID money we've received, Bureau of Workmen Compensation rebates we've received, right-of-way acquisition dollars, it's between $2.5 and $3 million in the last year and a half. It makes an $8.5, $9 million general fund budget look very, very good at present. But again, as far as the COVID monies go, that's borrowed dollars. And, some people say that the tough economic times could be ahead, and we have to be prepared for that. I hope that isn't true. I hope prosperity just keeps on going, but we have to be prepared. In the days, weeks, and months ahead, I want to address issues and concerns, including the following. And this isn't all-inclusive, and this is many things, I hear during each and every campaign, heard it during this one, and I want you all to know that Patrick and I and our administrative team are willing to discuss all things. Our building department is one. We've talked about differences for years. Good chances are, if we make changes, it's going to cost us revenue. And serious revenue, but we're wide open for the conversation. Exterior property maintenance, the many needs in our parks and recreational programs, our city and schools relations, the stadium that has many needs, past, present projects, and I hope that this council begins discussing and debating and forming a prioritized list of needed future projects, and that's a challenge. I tell people for every extra dollar we get here at City Hall, the police department wants it, fire department wants it, service department wants it, and park recreation wants 10 of it. And so anyway, it's a challenge. We will keep you all up to date with progress on the $2 million Thurnridge Drive project. $1 million of that is state capital improvement grant dollars, a huge project. We'll keep you updated. South Reading Road improvements. Finally, after years, these improvements came about with agreements with the City of Cincinnati, Amberley Village, Sycamore Township, Ohio Department of Transportation. I think when the day's done, we will have 7,000 or less into that, and it'll look a lot nicer. There's a MSD storm sewer project that's going to happen. It's a federally mandated project. We'll keep you updated with that. North Street road paving project. Over half of that project, approximately $350,000 of that project will be coming in state grant dollars. We'll keep you updated with the Port Authority and our plans to develop the former Dow Chemical property. A company called Avicius, future plans for the former Nivison property, and we're getting closer to them closing on that property. We'll keep you updated with improvements to and the paving of 3rd Street, which will include a new 8-inch in diameter water main, which is now a 3-inch in diameter aging water main. It'll be huge for water pressure on that street and for our fire department should a fire ever happen. But also 3rd Street will get all new curbs and aprons, and it's going to look great. It needs done, and Duke is paying over $460,000 to this project, and we are applying for a 20-year interest-free loan to cover the rest. Also, the Port Authority purchased and plans to demolish the dilapidated former Carousel and Drake motel properties, and really, that's on the west side of Reading Road, south of Galbraith. It's in Sycamore Township, but it's huge for us because it'll encourage development across the street in Reading. So it's really timely, the improvements that are going on, in the street already. With that too, there's a lot of annual events that'll come up. In the springtime, we'll do a newsletter. We'll give you all a chance, an opportunity to be involved with that, but get out, dates for events that happen. One of the things, we'll have our farmers market opening mid-May again, that'll run through September. And with that, anybody that has any questions, comments, concerns, you can contact me just about any time, 513-509-8619. I get a lot of bogus calls like everybody else, so I beg people to please, sometimes if I don't recognize the number, I don't answer. Please leave me a message. I'll get back with you, or rbemis@readingohio.org. And again, hopefully we will have productive conversations on all of the above and much more this year. Patrick and I and our administration team, always we ask, polite, honest, respectful debates. We don't mind debates. We don't mind disagreements. It's always wonderful when it's a polite and respectful, and we promise that to you as well as we love it for ourselves. And as always, I think it's always important for all of us, to continue to ask for God's blessings. We've been blessed in many ways as a community over many years, and we have, and I hope God continues to bless our great nation, our great city, and each and every one of you. That's it for me. Dwight wanted to mention some things about recycling. I am so sorry. Usually Dave will tell you some years I've gone on for 50 minutes with the state of the city. Once you start and want to include everything, you can literally go on and on and on. With everything you add, you're afraid of.
I got it in my report.
Pat's got it in his report. How's that?
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you all.
Have a good game.
Yes, absolutely. Go
Next
Blue
on the
Devils.
list, Safety Service Director report, Mr. Ross.
Thanks, Dwight. Hopefully everybody can hear me. On 3rd Street, there'll be contractors out there later this week and early part of next week. At the end of the pipeline installation, they cameraed up all the sewer lines. There's about a dozen. They're not collapsed, but Duke would rather go ahead and fix the sewer laterals now before everything's paved. So there's going to be about a dozen sewer laterals on either side of Benson, starting later this week. The mayor mentioned it, but our engineers are working on designing 3rd Street Road project, which will include full curbs, will include water main. Reminder, Duke, the reason it's a Reading project is Duke gave the city $461,000. And then for our portion, which we have to fund the water main at 100%, and they're only paying for about 1,100 feet of damaged curb, so the rest of the curb is also local. So it's about $500,000. We did apply for a 0% interest-free loan for that half of that. We should find out, through the county, through the SKIP program, they have begun reaching out to jurisdictions about loans. So we should hear from them within the next several weeks, whether or not we're going to get, our engineers think that we will be offered the 0% loan. So if that's the case, that'll be great, because, half of it's paid for by Duke, and then the other half is paid off over 20 years, interest-free. So I'll let you know when we hear that. I was informed this morning that 100% of the pipeline has been installed by Duke, not just in Reading, through the entire route. So beginning next week, they're going to begin testing it. That will take about a couple weeks, and then at the end of the month, they said they're going to begin tying in, putting that into service. So that is 10 long months. They started March 1st, so if they're done at the end of this month, that'll be 10 months, and I think everybody in town, especially where the pipeline is located, will be happy that they are at least done with construction completely. Just give a quick Thurnridge Drive update. After taking the week off last week to celebrate the holidays, the crews resumed work today. The water main is fully laid all the way from Hunt Road to Furman. They're going to begin testing that, putting water in, testing the main. Once it passes all their tests, they'll begin doing all the tie-ins. There's 120-ish homes up there, and each one of them will have a brand new tie-in, so they'll begin that. They will be in contact with the property owners, because at that point, when they do the tie-ins, that's when there will be, minor disruption in the service for them, because they have to turn off the water and then switch it over. So then they've also begun work on the catch basins up there. Wanted to just go through and then answer if council has any questions. I know that, and I didn't plan to get sick last week, so things happen. But information about moving our dispatch for police to the county was put out last week. Just wanted to give you kind of the rationale for that. Earlier last year, we had 3 dispatchers. Just explain for anyone that's not sure how it works. If you dial 911 and you have a police emergency, the 911 calls have always gone to the county. If it's a police call, they would transfer that call to our dispatchers here at City Hall, and they dispatch our officers like that. Since the early 2000s, our fire and EMS have been with the county for emergency runs. So if you call for heart attack, fire, this and that, the county has already been dispatching that. The reason, and I wasn't here at the time, the run volumes of police and fire are quite different. The reason at the time that it wasn't switched is the run volume for police was quite a bit higher than fire EMS. At the time, the detail rate, which is the amount that the county charged every time you call 911, they bill us for that. At the time, it was, I believe, $18 per run. That number is now down to $5 per run. And when we lost one of the dispatchers, it just did not make fiscal sense to continue to do that. We had every confidence, because our fire EMS has been with the county for almost 20 years, that there would be a smooth transition. It's only been 4 days, but we've not really had any issues. If you have any emergencies, you call 911. People have asked, what about the remaining dispatchers? Did they get fired at the end of the year? No, we kept both dispatchers. They've been reclassified to clerks. We thought it was important to have a presence in the department for people to come in. So Monday through Friday, there will be a human presence at City Hall from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The same people that have been answering the calls, Rachel and Jennifer, they're both going to still be here. So I wanted to explain that in case anyone, was wondering about that. Excuse me. I've been asked a couple times, and I actually asked it myself earlier this year. If you notice our hydrants, there's a red, an orange, or a green band around the neck of the hydrant. That serves two purposes. One, the main one is if our firemen arrive to a fire, they know exactly what the flow rate is based upon whether it's red. Red doesn't mean it's broken. It just, because somebody was like, do I have a broken one? Because my neighbor has green. No, it's just the flow volumes that the firemen can expect if they have to tap into that and put out a fire. Chief Owens also said that it serves a double purpose, that those, if you notice at night, they're kind of reflective, and it helps them identify easier where the hydrant is. So if you're seeing those around town, that is the purpose of those. The red doesn't mean broken, so don't be concerned about that. The mayor mentioned it briefly, but this morning received a very good email. The due diligence period that Nido Danko Avicia has been undergoing for the last 3-4 months to purchase the life science site at the end of 3rd Street. They are satisfied with their due diligence period, and they're ready to move forward with the closing, which lawyers are working on scheduling that, but could be as early as the end of next week or the following week. So that's a big win. I mentioned this to Mr. Bishop, who called me, because it's lands and buildings, and Dave can chime in a little bit. It's the most I've talked. So at the very end of 3rd Street, one of the parts of the agreement was vacating the very end of 3rd Street where there's a cul-de-sac there. I believe it was mentioned, last year when we were talking about this, and it was discussed to do it after closing because, and Dave can chime in because he's more, but when the city vacates a property, it automatically goes to the people on either side. So it would be a fairly simple, because if we would have done it beforehand, then the vacation of the dead end of that property, and I'll pass it around just if you're not familiar with it, but there's the last house there, and then south of that is what we're going to vacate, and they go. I'll point this out to you. This is the end of 3rd Street, and this is the main part of the life science, but it also goes up. Oh, sorry. It also goes up into the hillside. So, it makes sense for them to, take ownership of that. There's no purpose of the city needing that. In fact, in discussions with the plant manager, their long-term goal would be, not to eminent domain anybody's homes, because it's really not a public purpose, but, if those houses become for sale at some point, I do know that they would like to just acquire those 5 remaining homes south of Voorhees as well. I mean, that would be between them and property owners. We wouldn't be involved in that, but just real excited about that. And the mayor mentioned it, but that company in 2013 had 53 full-time people. As of right before Christmas, when I was meeting with them, he said that they were hiring to get to, I think, 159. So, I mean, they've tripled in less than a decade, and those are well-paying jobs. So I think, current members of council, prior members, we've all been patient with that site for, a company like this. So I think it's a big win for everybody. Our public works crew has completed leaf pickup. However, if you still do have leaves, they fell late, you can bag them and they will come around and pick them up for you. They will not pick them up, with the vacuum, but if you still have some, you can bag them, they will come around. And then lastly, as of beginning of this year, we're officially every single and two-family home has the ability to recycle at home. If you haven't received a bin or gotten a larger one, I don't have the number on me, but you can call them. They will give you the green roll-off bin free of charge. In addition to that, the collection day for the people that have been recycling, for the last 5+ years is going to be the same as your garbage day, which should make it easier for people to remember instead of 2 separate days. So on your trash night, put out your recycling as well. One last thing regarding that is the bins that have been down by the stadium. Those are going to be relocated to the Public Works Garage on Incinerator Lane. For anyone not familiar, it's toward the north end of Reading Road, just past MCOR and Dick Nichols. There's a road, Incinerator Lane. It'll be open from 7 to 3 for people that, and the reason we're still keeping them is there are, a lot of apartments, complexes that, may or may not recycle. So this gives those people, the ability to still come. It'll be open Monday through Friday, 7 to 3. And that's all, unless anyone has any questions.
Mr. President,
Go ahead, Mr. Boehner.
Patrick, on the 3rd Street, that originally was a 10-acre site, and I bought 5 acres when I was here. That's why a lot of that property goes up into the hillside. We thought it'd be a good idea.
Yep.
Something real important on the recycling, on the flyer that Rumpke sent out, and maybe didn't get to everybody, but they want you to put the recycling on one part of your driveway and your trash on the other. They don't want them side by side,
Okay.
because those guys start pretty early in the morning, and if it's dark, they're not gonna know which one's which.
That's good to know.
Is there another hand over here? Mr. Powell.
2 questions. I know it had been kind of kicked around on the water line replacement on 3rd Street that we're going to look at possibly replacing lead service lines as well. Is that still part of it, or where does that stand?
Our engineers have been directed to, as part of the bid, to put an alternate bid in there. So not necessarily for the city to pay for them, but when we get the bids returned, and there'll be time, we will let every resident know, I can't tell you what it is, but say it's $2,000. And what he's talking about is a lot in the valley in the older homes, the service line from the main to your home, that 3/4 inch pipe, a lot of those are lead. Just, in the early 1900s, that was just what was used. So I've directed our engineers to put an alternate that the contractor will have to provide, per, I think it's just gonna be per new tap, because it's too difficult to do, per linear feet. Plus, most of them are pretty much the same distance. So that will be an option for residents to do at that time.
Okay. And then one other thing, the $5 rate per dispatch, were there any kind of guarantees for the number of years that would be valid, or?
No,
Okay.
but that was one of the reasons, because they've actually moved that rate about 1.5 years ago, and that's why we kind of took our time with it and made sure, because we didn't want them all of a sudden 1 year later to jump it back up. But I have talked to the administrator for the county, and he says that himself and the commissioners have no thoughts about increasing that. So
It just had me a little nervous, because I know sometimes the financial situation down at the county is kind of shaky at times. So I just didn't want all of a sudden next year it was doubled.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's one of those, but the only good thing is it's for everybody in the county. It's not just, a contract with Reading for $5. It's
Do you know
across the board.
how many people, how many communities use them?
Almost all of them. I know that Amberley still has their own dispatchers, and I believe Norwood. But
Switched already. I think Norwood's with the county.
Norwood has switched, so I think,
Just switched and St. Bernard just switched, so I think we kind of modeled our change off of their feedback of their recent change,
yeah. And
what Chief Eden said
the
today.
dispatchers at the county, for anyone who, if you call after hours, they're gonna have a list of phone numbers, different events, things that, that are going on in Reading, because if, people call about this or that, people will call and say, when's the festival? We get those calls. That's not a 911 call, but they will have information about events and things going on in town as well. They showed me this when we toured it. Each community has their own kind of file, and then the dispatchers there can pick it up and have a whole list of phone numbers, things like that, so.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
Any others?
Question. Regarding the 911 dispatch, I've had a few people ask about the non-emergency police line. That is still active, correct?
That is correct. That'll still active, and after hours or weekends, it'll automatically forward
Okay.
down to the county.
Just curious if we have a projected completion date for Thurnridge? Year or so?
I don't have an exact date, but I think paving season really kicks off, March, April-ish. I would think they would be close to completion around the summertime with that one, because once they get the water main totally done, then it's pretty much just their normal road work. But, there is a little more because we are widening it 18 inches on each side. All new sidewalks, the entire length on both sides due to the shape of them. So probably around the summer, but I've been asking them to, give me updates, and they're not, a little bit like, well, depends on this and that, but that's why. But they are working now, and, yeah. So
It's a big project. A lot goes into it.
yeah, it's probably the biggest road water since I've been here. $2 million is the biggest one in my 12 years, so.
Thank you.
Any others? I do have a couple for you, Mr. Ross. Going back to recycling, who's our point of contact? I hear from a lot of people, and I'm one of them, didn't get either a bin or a rolly cart. Like to know how that's going to get resolved. If we're going to be paying $4 a month for it, I'd like to have the item I'm supposed to be paying for, and others too. I'll let you respond to that one first.
The easiest way to, if you're looking for a phone number to call, all of the clerks here at 513-733-3725, they have all the information, phone numbers, details. So that is an easy way. I know Mr. Orman's sitting in the audience, and both Mr. and Mrs. Orman have both offered themselves to be anybody's kind of intermediary if you're having issues. But for people that are watching, you just, hey, I need another phone number. Just call 733-3725. They can provide that. I also should say, because some people were a little confused about the wording, because they said the cart is free of charge. So they think the service is free of charge. It is $4 per month or $1 per week for that service. That'll be included on your water utility bill. Just how trash has been included for everybody since, I don't know when
A while.
Reading went to Rumpke.
2001, probably.
Okay.
That seems about right. Second question on dispatch. Does Hamilton County have updated maps? The last time I used 911, they routed me to Cincinnati.
We will, they should. I know that sometimes Galbraith with the different zip code, but they should have all of it. If you do have issues like that, please let us know. Well, so we can get them corrected.
Well, Patrick, I think dovetailing into what he just said, I think it probably would be wise to let the county know what addresses on Galbraith Road belong to us and what addresses belong to somebody that's not us. Because you know, he's correct. I mean, Galbraith Road is very confusing because you bounce between Arlington Heights and Springfield Township and Cincinnati and Wyoming and Amberley and
And
Reading.
Coleraine. It goes way
So,
west.
Well, then we provide for Amberley and
Yeah,
Arlington.
it might be wise for somebody in the police department to contact them and let them know what addresses on Galbraith Road are ours.
Yeah, I'll make sure Chief takes sure of that one.
Good call, thank you. And the last one, on the water lines that are lead, do the residents know that there's a chelation product being put into the water to reduce the amount of lead that actually gets to them, or to neutralize it?
Well, if every year they're provided with the water quality report, so if they read it, they would know what's in it. But that's sometimes on the property owner to know that. But that information, every year we do provide that, and basically we provide what Cincinnati provides because we purchase the water wholesale from Greater Cincinnati Water Works. So,
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Ross?
Pat, I got one. Excuse me.
Good.
No, just a comment. There are some people on that end of Third Street that have purchased homes over the last 2 to 3 years. I sold one myself, and the line was changed. And it was about $2,500 to have a plumber come out and do that.
okay.
So I know that the one at Benson and Third Street's done. I know at least 2 others sold. I don't know if they were done or not.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of those where a lot of times you can tell if you go into your basement where your meter comes in, and we did as good of a job as we could of identifying when we installed all the new meters in 2019. They did a little scratch test, and our water department has that information. But yeah, it's going to be one of those where, how much did you say roughly?
About $2,500.
That, I was kind of
That was a good price. I mean,
I was thinking around that, and especially if you're gonna, if a lot of people were to do it, then everybody's,
Right.
it's one of those where, eventually, it's gonna be one of those where EPA might come in 20 years from now and say, you gotta get rid of all lead.
right.
We're not there at this point. And we have looked at other options in different parts of the valley. There are alternatives. If you were not gonna replace the entire line, there is a product that you can, basically, it goes into the lines and it's a liner basically for the water line and service lines that goes inside the pipe and basically takes away the risk of lead, which is, we did look at that, in the valley around all the time that all the Flint stuff was happening. So that is a possibility too in the future if, it needed to be done on a big scale.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Ross? Anybody? All right, moving on. Law Director, Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Dom. I don't have any formal report. I would like to welcome the new members of council, and if you guys will get me your cell phone numbers, I'll send you my contact card, and you'll have my cell phone and my email address, because I don't have a city email address.
It's not for you. It's something I forgot.
Okay, all right, sorry. But that's all I have. Thanks.
Very good, thank you.
Mr. Dom?
Yes.
Sorry, one last thing I forgot to mention. This is more of a nuts and bolts item. I provide everybody with your email, but if the new members can send me an email picture for the website, so we can get that updated. So if you don't have my email at this point, it's pross@readingohio.org, but just if you could put it in a Word document, that would be the easiest one, because it's easier to cut and paste with the website. But if you want to send me a picture and whatever you want to say for a bio. So just email me those. And current members, if you want to update yours as well. So, sorry, forgot to mention that.
But, no, it's good information to have, thank you. Treasurer's report is next. Brenda Owens called me, actually she texted me. She said that she is still out sick. Does anyone have a report for her in her stead.
I spoke with her earlier. She said that she'd have a report next meeting.
Next meeting's good. All right. Last but certainly not least, Auditor Mrs. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to welcome everybody to 2022. So I know tonight it feels like we're getting started and running with some of the things that I provided tonight. Patrick can attest to the fact that those are common things that happen every year, so I'll be able to discuss them in full once we go to them. I did give you guys the month-to-date report, the fund report that I have. We'll start talking about these different funds as we go throughout the year. Some of them are not utilized. As we talk about getting a new computer system, the consolidation of those funds will be happening on some of them. And the main ones, just to note, of course, are the general fund, which is the 101, and the 220 fund, which is the city earnings tax fund. That's the feeder fund for the general fund. And then as you go down the list, there's the water fund, the streets and curbs fund, and things like that. Fund accounting's a little bit different with a municipality, but I'll be honest and say you can learn it, and it's just separated out to kind of give your brain a little ease of where the money's coming from, why it's paid out here, why it's put into this fund, and vice versa. So we'll be talking about that as we go throughout the year. Mr. Bronner's already reached out to me, and I will be providing some information to him as well as everyone else. The Treasurer's Department is currently out sick. I cannot close the end of the month, December, until they finish booking all their revenues for December, and that will also push back a little bit, not much, the delay of the end of the year. So you guys are going to get a bunch of reports from me. This is my 2-year audit year, so we will be audited as a city for 2020 and 2021 through an independent contractor through the state of Ohio's auditor's office. Their name is Plattenberg and Associates. As far as being on council, you will have to fill out a survey from them. I know you guys are all new. Some of the questions might feel a little premature for your stint here, but that's what's being asked for you to fill out. It's just basically to gauge any fraud happening, any things that you see, any information that isn't offered to you. We're very transparent here. So that's going to be coming down the pipeline. For 2020, their audit's only 4 days, which is nice. It'll be January 18th through the 21st, or that week of Martin Luther King Day. They'll be here Tuesday through Friday. So that's a good time to get things started and rolling, and then they will be back later in the year for 2021's audit. That's just kind of a preview for me. I know it's a lot of information. I look forward to working with everybody and drilling up your knowledge, all part finances from the city. So you'll get a lot of different updates from myself, Patrick, the mayor, and all the different department heads, and I work very closely with all of them. So that's it for me for tonight.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Smith?
It's more kind of a joint, I know Sabrina mentioned it. The biggest item that's going to be coming before you from the both of us is an upgrade to our finance and payroll system. It's obsolete after the end of this year, or
It's July of 2023, but we're
23.
hoping to have the full kickstart by January of 2023, so just to make it completely fluid.
You know, it's going to be, you know, it's a big expenditure, but it's something that's used daily between her office and then payroll and HR, and it's going to upgrade how we do requisitions. You know, it'll paperless, correct, Sabrina? I mean, requisitions will be, department heads will submit them. They will come to me through the program. I look it over. When I hit approve, then it goes to Sabrina. And even, you know, I think it's probably, most people are probably already using this. But for Sabrina and I, who've been using kind of an outdated system for a while, the thought of it'll automatically, you know, deduct that amount from the appropriations for her too. So like at the same time as spending it, it's like, okay, now it's deducted that by $500. And, you know, it sounds exciting to her and I because it's, but probably other people are like, well, you guys aren't doing that already?
Well, and other people have had it for 20 years.
So that's going to be coming up probably within the next 2 months. And we'll explain more, but we've interviewed 3 different companies, and none of them really are apples to apples comparison, because they don't all provide the same modules and services. So just Sabrina and I have been working on that for a while, and we have talked about it, so.
Excellent. Anything else? All right, moving on. Council committee reports. I doubt that there have been any committee of council meetings, but I would like to know, show of hands, if any of the council members have chosen their councils, their committees. Anybody?
I have asked one person to be on my committee so far. I was hoping to speak to the other person this evening, so.
Excellent.
Yeah, I
Okay.
thought that would be what we would discuss tonight, get that squared away.
Okay, so it sounds like that would all fall into other business, which is next up on the list. Who'd like to start?
I do have a report.
I was gonna say. I have
Oh,
to
do
make
you
a-
really?
And
Excellent.
I have just something brief as well.
Okay, well, Mrs. Edichico,
Does anyone else have a report?
Yep.
they do, but we're going a little bit out of order
Okay.
from here. Because you raised your hand first and I made a bad assumption, that's my fault, sorry.
Well, we already mentioned it, but I would like to talk about appointing another 2 members for each of our committees so we can move forward and schedule some committee meetings. Second, I would like to schedule a Laws and Contracts Committee meeting for Tuesday, January 25th at 6:30 here at City Hall in the caucus room to discuss the rules and regulations governing council procedure. I would like to extend the invitation to Mayor Bemis and Patrick to the committee meeting so that we can get their input and also add any changes that Carla would like for the duties of clerk of council. And also during the meeting, I would like to talk about some of our committee's goals for this year. Other than that, I would just like to wish everybody a happy new year and say congratulations to our new council members. So, that is all I have.
Mr. Boehner.
I got a quick question, Katie, on the council rules. The old rules said we've got the council, new council has 10 days to okay those rules. So if we want to okay them tonight and then amend them on the 25th?
I would like to get the input from Mayor Bemis and Patrick first, though. I can look through those and move my meeting up to next week if that works. And then get
That'll be within the
Carla's
10 days,
input.
yeah. I mean, I don't think that's 10 days written in stone, but I don't want to go too far into that and push that limit out there.
Actually, I believe that is in the ORC, 10 days.
Well, the 10 days is only for the appointment of the president pro tem and the clerk. The bottom line is you can write your rules at any time.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So the 25th is good?
Yeah, I figured that would give time to get the committee set with the other 2 members, and we can go from there.
Excellent. Because I'm out of order, sorry, I will get back to the side. Mrs. Kroger.
Let's see here. I have all the fire department and the police department runs for December. The EMS responses were 203. The fire responses were 43. 9 of those were an all-call. So for a total of 246 total responses. For 2021, the overall, we had 2,547 EMS responses and 472 fire responses. And of those 472, 140 were an all-call. This is a record number of incidents. It's an increase of 13.5% from 2020. Also, we have a couple part-time firefighter EMTs that are beginning orientation, and then we have 1 firefighter paramedic that just completed Fire Officer 2 training. And also, Chief Edens and Chief Owens both assisted St. Bernard Police with their lieutenant promotion process. And for the police, calls for service, there were 1,102. Auto accidents, there were 30. Booking of original charges, 151. Total criminal charges was 230. And total citations issued was 186.
Any questions? Nice report, thank you. Mr. Tomlin.
Yeah, for the Recreation Committee, just have some updates mostly regarding the pool. We started taking applications for the swimming pool employees today. We only have so many positions available, so it's important for all interested parties to submit applications as early as possible. We will review returning employee applications first, and the new applicants will be reviewed in the order they are received. Pool employees are typically hired in April. Applicants must be 14 years old at least to work the concessions and at least 15 years old to be a lifeguard. All lifeguards must get their lifeguard certification prior to the pool opening. The City of Reading does not pay for certification. However, lifeguards are eligible for an end-of-summer bonus to offset the cost of training. Please call Susan Slavey with any questions regarding any of this. It's 513-623-4145. Looking ahead, it's a ways off yet, but mark your calendar. Sign-ups for pool memberships will be on the first 3 Saturdays of May. It's May 7th, 14th, and 21st from 10 to noon at the Hafey Fieldhouse. The pool is set to open on Saturday, June 4th at noon. And lastly, the city Easter egg hunt will take place on Saturday, April 26th, 10 a.m. at the Hafey Fieldhouse.
Very good. Any questions? Mr. Powell, you said you had one.
Yes, real briefly, I had been late last year discussing with Jerry Newfarmer about coming to council and talking to us about doing like a review of how the city does things. Still working with him to come up with a date here that now that we've seen the new council for him to come out and kind of give his presentation, and you know, just that way we can kind of discuss if that would be something we want to pursue or not. So, and that was it for this evening.
Excellent, thank you. Others?
Mr. President, I want to thank Mr. Ross for providing a nice update to the Utilities, Lands, and Buildings Committee for the month, since we're just getting started. I have no further report to offer, but I would like to say that I'm excited to work with all my new colleagues here on council as well as within the city.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Boehner.
I have a Service Committee report. Thanks to Mr. Courtney dropping it off. City crews out patching potholes in the streets. The mulcher's been out collecting branches. City street sweeper's been out cleaning streets. There have been 2 leaf crews out picking up leaves through the fall, and now have changed over to snow removal, as the mayor's talked about. Our trucks, on our trucks. So leaf pickup is done for the year, and I believe Patrick said if you want to bag them, they'll come by and pick them up. Water main breaks have been repaired on Holly Drive and South Cathwood. Repairs to the roadways will be completed this week. City crew helped set up the new council at the Hafey Fieldhouse, and I also like to thank Shelley Kroger for all her work. He organized the inauguration, did a great job. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any others? All right. We're in the other business section of the meeting. Does anyone have anything else to bring up before we go into legislation?
Other business, I'd like to, I looked at the list that you had supplied to us as far as choices and stuff, and Mr. Tomlin had put down as one of his top 3 choices to serve on Planning, Zoning, and Environment, and I'd be asked if you'd be willing to serve on that committee.
Absolutely.
Okay, it'll be yourself, Mrs. Edichico, and I'm chair. So, all right, thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
And then I wanted to ask if I had any volunteers interested in joining the super exciting Laws and Contracts Committee.
I'd be willing to serve on it.
volunteer for that.
Okay.
You have 2, so it looks like Mr. Powell and Mr. Boehner. Excellent.
I know who they are, but maybe for the purpose of people watching, who the new committee chairs are, since, well, I guess, just list them for the purpose of just public.
So the committee chairs, I'll go backwards. Actually, not backwards. Finance is how I should have called him. Mr. Bronner. Utilities, Lands, and Buildings, Mr. Bishop. Zoning, Planning, and Environment, Mr. Powell. Laws and Contracts, Mrs. Edichico. Public Health and Safety, Mrs. Kroger. Service, Bob Boehner. Recreation, Mr. Tom.
Thank you.
Any other wrangling for committee members tonight?
I'd like to ask if there's any volunteers for the Finance Committee.
I was gonna volunteer for that.
It's
Mr.
super
Banner, thank
fun.
you.
It is. We have a team effort, we're ready.
Mr. Bishop, I know you were on the list as interested in that, and Mr. Tomlin also. Would either one of you want to volunteer for Finance, or is there anybody else who'd be interested?
I would.
Mr. Bishop, Mr. Boehner, that'd be great. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
While we're at it, we might as well get them all done.
Get them all done, of course.
Exciting public health and safety.
Hey, it's exciting.
Volunteer with you there.
Okay.
I'll go.
That's good.
Sir?
So we have service, utilities, lands and buildings, and recreation to go.
I'd volunteer for service and lands and utilities.
And I'd like to be on utilities, lands, and buildings as well.
Okay.
And I'll do service
Okay, I've got Shelley and Andy on service.
And recreation.
Sweet.
So we have, does everybody have their 3 people?
I'm still in need. There wasn't a great deal of interest for recreation.
I saw that.
Okay.
Okay,
I volunteered for hard one.
You need one more, right?
Finance,
I
and
do.
then what was the other one?
so here's the thing.
At the moment, it's me and Mrs. Kroger.
The committees need to be 3 people, so you don't have a tie. But not 4, because that would be a voting
Yeah.
council meeting. So you can't have 4. Like to have 3, 1's probably not enough. So,
It's only on
3, not
one
4.
other committee.
Does anybody have 4? Hopefully not on your committee. I didn't hear any.
I don't have,
Okay, is anybody missing?
everybody should be on 2 committees.
Yeah, everybody's supposed to be on 2.
Yes. So who is not on 2? Yet.
Somebody is.
I think I volunteered for
Who's
lands
on
and
3?
utilities and service.
Can we go through each of them, because I was trying to write
Yeah.
them.
Yes,
but
so we'll
I kinda
start.
quickly.
We'll start with finance. Mr. Bronner, who do you have?
I have Mr. Boehner and a Mr. Bishop.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, utilities, Mr. Bishop.
I have Mr. Bronner and Mr. Powell.
And I'm sorry, what was the second name?
Mr. Powell.
Powell. Zoning, planning, and environment, Mr. Powell.
Have Mrs. Edichico and Mr. Tommen.
Okay. Laws and contracts.
I have Mr. Powell and Mr. Boehner.
Health and safety, Mr. Kroger.
I have Mrs. Edichico and Mr. Tomlin.
Down. Got it.
Okay. Service, Mr. Boehner.
I have Shelley Kroger and Andy Bronner.
Okay, Mr. Tomlin.
I have Shelley Kroger. With a +1.
I guess I'm missing one then.
Mark?
Welcome aboard. Thanks.
Excellent.
Got it.
Now we have a full complement.
There we go.
That's very good. Any other business? Okay, I'm gonna bring up some other business that is a repeat from 2019. I have in my hand, that was provided to me by a previous council member, ordinance number 2019-49, which pertains to upgrading our fine conference room here. Most of you weren't around to see that happen. So I think what I'm going to do is put a copy in each of your mailboxes so you can pick it up and read it over. We need some input on how to improve the council chambers. Among those things, I think is better displays, but we can put that off. I think utilities, lands, and buildings would probably be the best place to put that, unless somebody disagrees and wants to do something else, and as far as a committee goes. But this wonderful ordinance puts the president of council in kind of the hot seat for making sure it gets done. Now, I don't see any changes from way back in the early aughts to this council chamber, so obviously nothing was done.
It's been since the
COVID
mid-nineties,
happened,
because
that
there
was
haven't been any changes since I've been here. The only thing we've gotten was new chairs.
New chairs, okay.
One, unfortunately, when the discussions were kind of starting to pick up is when COVID
That
happened.
happened.
And it kind of
think that was
Put
one
a
of-
damper on everything.
I think that was
Gotcha.
one of our last meetings in council
Yes.
chambers before we went to Zoom.
So what I would like for everyone to consider is what improvements need to be made to this room and also the caucus room, because the ordinance covers the caucus room as well. So there may be some changes.
Mr. President, I think you also have to be aware that this room's also used for many meetings, mayor's court. It's used for a lot of different things, so it's, you gotta think about that when you wanna change a bunch of things here.
Bob, I would agree with you, but I think we can work some stuff out, particularly if it gets warmer. If there has to be a lot of construction here, we can move Mayor's Court back to Havy Fieldhouse for the
Yeah,
summer if we
yeah.
have to. I don't want to do that, but,
Yeah.
you know, depending on what you do here. Obviously, this room needs some work.
Yeah,
You know, we've periodically had to replace the ceiling because of leaks in the roof and other things, but the carpet is original to my term from 1995 forward. The curtains are all original. This stuff is original. So it's been here for at least 26 years.
yeah, I've been here since '91. I can't remember anything different than what is now.
Curtains are from the 80s or 90s, early 90s.
Okay, so think of what you want to do. I do have a stack in this wonderful folder of things that other council people before the new ones have said, and it includes yours and yours. So I know what you wanted then, but you can change that at any time, because you may have new ideas. Let's see what we can do to get that together, and let's make sure we include our law director as part of it, because he uses this room pretty regularly.
Right? Yeah. Mayor's Court meets second, third, and fourth Wednesday, or Tuesday of every month.
Okay, so let's do that. And looping back, I did forget one thing for Mr. Ross. Paving, do we have a paving list posted online anywhere?
No.
Okay, can we get a paving list posted online somewhere?
What do you mean by paving list?
So what our top priorities are. I keep hearing from residents about, let's say, Harvest Lane. We'll start there. That was where I first heard it, and then you have Vinca. All the dead-end streets seem to need a little bit of work, at least all the ones that I've seen so far.
Yeah, Harvest was on the application this year, it wasn't funded, but what I'll provide you, everybody, I maintain a spreadsheet that has, all the roads for at least a decade or so, and how much they cost and what we have to pay back for those. That's helpful to know because, you know, it shows, you know, those paybacks come from the Streets and Curbs Fund. So I'll make sure that's updated, I'll get you that, and then I'll give you the list that 3 independent people in the Public Works, kind of, they gave a list of, you know, immediate, they went through every street, kind of immediate, within 5 years, 10, you know, that kind of thing, so, yeah.
Excellent, very good, thank you. And then I had a request from Third Street. Can we get speed signs on Third Street at the south end where the sale of that property is about to be? I'm going to guess that they're going to put an entrance. They may not, but I'm going to guess that they might.
I'm thinking they're not, Dwight. I think that's one of the reasons they want that vacated.
Okay. Well, they still have a problem with people speeding through there. Even just from Reading Road south, apparently people like to use that as a racetrack.
I'm confused. You said Third Street.
Third Street, yes.
Off
What are
of
they-
Benson.
Oh.
People are hot rodding.
From Benson
Sorry,
towards
Benson,
Voorhees.
sorry, you're right.
That direction, toward the dead end.
Right
Toward
towards
the dead end, yes.
Okay,
Reading towards
sorry.
Voorhees.
When
we
you
got-
said
Benson.
Reading, I was like, what?
Yeah, Benson towards Voorhees.
The Benson to
Benson.
Voorhees?
Hammer
Yes.
south around the grass infield and bring it back.
So a lot of complaints of speeding through there. Resident told me that she had a sign sitting out there for a while and it was removed.
Did it not get put back up with the construction?
No, it was a privately made and funded sign that was removed because it wasn't a city sign. And I think it had some sort of zoning ordinance removal stuck to it. So at least to get those up to remind people it's 25 through there, and maybe somebody wants to pick up some points for their annual review, they can sit there, just like in Galbraith.
Yeah, I'll ask our guys to.
So, and then also, this is kind of a sticky point. You're probably gonna have something to say about this. Stop signs on Galbraith Road. Residents at Ridgepoint and Harvest are saying, hey, it's tough to get out of there without getting wrecked. Getting in's not horrible. It's not great if you're heading up the hill and going into Harvest or Ridgepoint. But the problem is we have people coming west from Amberley at 35 to where it changes to 25, and right there is Ridgepoint. And then not very far past that is Harvest. And the residents have requested some sort of traffic control there. What can we do with that?
I think, before you put up a sign or a light, you're gonna have to have a study done.
Yeah.
The bottom line on it is if it's an issue of speeding, target enforcement might help.
For a while.
And some other types of signage. I don't know whether you're gonna be able to put a stop sign or a light there.
Well, sarcasm on right now because I enjoy seeing those 18-wheelers coming down the hill at 50 miles an hour. I'm just waiting for somebody to be backing out of a driveway when that happens.
I hear what you're saying.
That's a problem. We do speed humps, speed bumps, speed tipping road plates.
Probably not. You might be able to do rumble strips, without doing a study, but, I would suggest before you do anything, you do a study, see what kind of traffic you're getting up there.
So, Mr. Ross, what can we do with that?
Yep, we'll do that. I know that we have looked in the past, because I've heard from, this has been now a little while, people have asked about putting those mirrors on. And I know that Matt has looked into that, but because of how the road is shaped, you have to have certain sight lines for them to work proper. You know what I'm talking about?
So
if
the
you're
standard
at-
convex mirror is not going to do it. You need a split mirror, a left and right
So-
split, for that one to work. I've looked.
But we'll look into that, and I'll make sure that, our police are targeting that area for speeding.
Very good. Okay. Any other business?
Do you want Mrs. Kroger to have that in her committee, those 2 points? Since that's public health and safety?
Good idea. Thank you.
And then she can work with Mr. Ross. I just very, very small, when everybody gets their City of Reading email up and running, can you all just send me a quick email, hey, I'm up and running, so I know you're ready to go, and I use that one instead of the other one I have.
Okay, last call for other business before we move to legislation. Anybody? All right, reading of ordinances. The first one I have is, well, let's see. Well, I'll let Mrs. Kotcher do it.
An ordinance authorizing the auditor to make transfers not to exceed $2 million from the city earnings tax fund to the general fund from January 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
I move we suspend the rules requiring a second, third reading.
We have a motion by Mr. Boehner to suspend the rules requiring a second and third reading. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Mrs. Kroger first. Roll call.
Mr. Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Bronner.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Mr. Boehner.
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin.
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger.
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
Discussion.
Discussion.
I'd like to yield the floor to the auditor to explain the ordinance for out there.
Actually, let me stop you right there. Point of order. As soon as we had the roll call done with 7 yes, the rules are suspended for the second, third reading. Now discussion. Mrs. Smith.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out, this is a movement from the 220 fund, which is the city earnings tax fund. That's where a bunch of the revenue comes in from the city. And I'm asking within that amount of time, the 3 months, to be able to move up to $2 million to the general fund. As you see, towards the end of the year, we're sitting with a $2.5 million balance and then a $1.5 million balance. I have been moving that $2 million closer to the end of the time. This was worked with our auditors to make sure this is in compliance, since we don't have a true finance director here at the city. We kind of work at a 3 spot with the treasurer's office, my office, and Patrick. This is to relinquish control for my position to be able to make payroll. On average, payroll can be anywhere from the 190s to the 240s. And so we were meeting when I first started on certain extra dates to move that amount of money to be able to make payroll by timely manner. With the institution of these ordinances that you're voting on tonight, this allows me to make a fluid business run for normal expenditures. I'm not asking for anything crazy to be paid. It's not saying that I'm gonna, go and pay $1 million to something else. This is just to make these two funds fluid. A lot of municipalities don't even have these two funds. They all roll in one and they don't even do this. The reason why it's split up every 3 months is because just to give that one more step of control, or if you thought I wasn't doing something well, you could take out the next ordinance, and that's why I'm asking for them all to be voted up top in the beginning. Does anybody have any questions about this at all? Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt?
I'll second.
Mr. Powell, Mrs. Edichico, motion to adopt the ordinance. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tommen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
Ordinance number, please.
2022-01. An ordinance authorizing the auditor to make transfers not to exceed $2 million from the city earnings tax fund to the general fund from April 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
I make a motion to suspend the rules that require a second and third reading.
Second.
Mr. Powell has motion and Mr. Boehner has seconded the suspension of the rules requiring a second and third reading. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tommen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
7 yes. The
Motion to adopt?
We have a motion to adopt by Mrs.
Second.
Chico, second by Mr. Powell. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tommen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
Motion is adopted. Ordinance number, please.
2022-02.
Excellent.
An ordinance authorizing the auditor to make transfers not to exceed $2 million from the city earnings tax fund to the general fund from July 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Make a motion to suspend the rule that requires a second and third reading.
Second.
So Mr. Powell has motion and Mrs. Kroger has seconded to suspend rules for a second and third reading. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tommen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
All right, we have 7 yes. The rules are suspended.
Move to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr.
Second.
Boehner, second by Mr. Powell. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tommen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
I have to get this down.
Ordinance number, please.
2022-03. An ordinance authorizing the auditor to make transfers not to exceed $2 million from the city earnings tax fund to the general fund from October 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend the rules for the second and third reading?
Second.
So we have a motion to suspend the rules by Mrs. Edichico and a second by Mr. Bishop. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tommen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
7 yes. The rules are suspended.
Move to adopt.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Boehner,
Second.
second by Mr. Tommen. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Bronner,
Yes.
Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Boehner,
Yes.
Mr. Tommen,
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger,
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
7 yes. Ordinance number.
2022-04. An ordinance authorizing the auditor to pay the amount of $73,565.03 from the Streets and Curbs Fund for payment with respect to various improvement loans and declaring an emergency.
I motion to suspend the rules, require second and third reading.
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Boehner and a second by Mr. Ronner. Too many B's here. To suspend the rules requiring a second and third reading, roll call, please.
Mr. Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Bronner.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Mr. Boehner.
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin.
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger.
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
Excellent, 7 yes. The rules are suspended.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to adopt the ordinance by Mrs. Edichico, seconded by Mr. Bishop. Roll call, please.
Mr. Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Bronner.
Yes.
Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Mr. Boehner.
Yes.
Mr. Tomlin.
Yes.
Mrs. Kroger.
Yes.
Mrs. Edichico.
Yes.
Ordinance number.
2022-05.
Excellent. Any other ordinances? Probably not. right?
Mr. President?
Yes.
One thing before I forgot to mention this earlier. Pat, can you talk with Carla about getting her a new laptop?
I actually
You
already
talked
spoke
to-
to Mr. Ross. He's
Okay.
gonna go ahead and get one purchased.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
all right, no problem.
I thought that might be included in the upgrade, but go a little bit more.
If we don't have anything else, I'll move to adjourn.
Actually, we do have miscellaneous business. Anybody with miscellaneous business? I actually have some miscellaneous business. It really isn't that miscellaneous. It's actually pretty important. Some of you saw me do the payoff last week, 2 weeks ago. Well, it was 2 weeks ago. Each of you is being given a copy
Thank you.
Thank you,
of the
sir.
Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. You got it memorized, right?
Well, I don't have it memorized, but I have that book.
Thank you.
Yeah, that book? All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Dwight.
I've
Get all
memorized the
there.
Fifth
So
Amendment.
you have it. Who did I miss? I have 3 left. Mrs. Catcher, sorry.
It's okay.
Just throw it out.
Don't want to throw it at you. And I have, I didn't skip you, I just want to make sure I had enough for council first.
I thought.
And there you go. All right. The reason for giving you each one of these is only a few days ago that we each said we were going to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and uphold the ordinances of the City of Reading. Well, I can't put all of that in a little book, but the Constitution's here as the basis of all the law that we have in this country. Hope everybody reads it, understands it. If you have any questions, it's open for debate.
And something else on that, periodically, there will be a group here locally that offers a program called Constitution Boot Camp. It's usually on a Saturday. Well, they will go into the details of the Constitution, all the Federalist letters, and that, and kind of really go in depth with it. And I've always wanted to do it, but with COVID, I've never gotten the opportunity. But if I hear of a program being offered, I'd be happy to share that with anybody that's interested. So,
Mr. Boehner.
I got another question for you, Pat. Does council still use the ordinance book? Or is there
We've relied on the online.
online?
Yeah.
They're all online?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
All right, that's good for all residents to know. If you have an ordinance that you need to look up, should be online.
It's at the bottom of the website. It goes through American Legal. So if you click on that, it'll take you to their website.
And during the meeting, I was looking over our law director's shoulder. He had up the Ohio Revised Code.
I did.
So that you know that he is actually paying attention to the law, I can tell you right now, he had it up. I've done it too. I encourage everybody to go look at that for any questions you have. So,
I still got a motion to adjourn.
yes, you do. Any other miscellaneous business? Point of order. No other miscellaneous business. We have on the floor a motion to adjourn by Mr. Boehner.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Kroger. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned.